Welcome to the Murfreesboro City Council, January 14th, 2016. Councilmember Bill Shacklett, I think you have someone you want to introduce for our prayer and our pledge.
I do. Thank you, Mayor. I want to introduce tonight a special guest, Pastor James McCarroll from the First Baptist Church, and he's going to tell us a little about an upcoming event and offer our opening prayer.
Good evening. As you know, this upcoming Monday we'll be celebrating Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. As part of this weekend, there are several events I'd like to mention this evening for the community to participate in. First is this upcoming Saturday at 9 a.m. at the James Union Building on the beautiful campus of Middle Tennessee State University. The NAACP will be hosting the 2016 Mlk Breakfast. The guest speaker for that event will be Pastor John Faison of the Watson Grove Missionary Baptist Church in Nashville, Tennessee. On this upcoming Monday, there are several events that will take place. Two of them I'd like to mention this evening. First is that morning, starting at Central Magnet School, there will be a unity march that will kick off at 10 a.m. And proceed from there to Patterson Park Community Center. At Patterson Park Community Center at 11 a.m., there will begin a program celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. King. I wanted to mention these events so that we would understand that these are not events that are particular to a certain subcultural context, but also are events that invite our entire community to be out. It's not necessarily just celebrating a man, it's celebrating the legacy and the moral ground upon which he stood as he called the entire community, the universal community, to a sense of moral responsibility and social justice, of which we all become the beneficiaries at some point. And so I want to encourage us as a community to celebrate this legacy and allow us to spend some time together as we remember what Dr. King did for not only our country and the African American community, but the entire world. With that being said, let's pray. Father, we thank you for this time together tonight. We thank you for the City Council and all that they do to guide the city to a place that will allow it to be a great place, not only to dwell, but also to serve one another and to serve you. We pray now for our mayor and his leadership, our vice mayor and his leadership, the council, and all of those that take vital parts in leading this city into being the place in the community that you would have it to be. Now, Lord, we pray for the proceedings. We pray that you would guide every thought, guide every action, guide every decision made, that it be done in the best interests of the constituents of this community, as well as your purpose for this community. It is in Jesus' name that we ask it all, believing it done. Amen.
Amen.
Do you want me to pray?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor McCarroll. I want to start out by saying there was a great article in the paper about Councilwoman Scales Harris, and so we're all excited that she is on the mend to get better, and I know she's been in our thoughts and prayers, so we're excited. I know she's watching tonight, so we miss her being here and know she's going to be here soon. Mr. Lyons, I think you have a new promotion you want to recognize.
Yes, bring Assistant Chief Eric Cooke forward. I think Chief Bowen is here as well. A few weeks ago, Eric Cooke was promoted to the rank of Assistant Police Chief. Eric has been with the city for 29 years, recently served as the major over the Criminal Investigations Division. Eric's had a very distinguished career here, and one of the things I think that is pretty special about the Cooke family, his wife is a school teacher at Discovery School, but Eric's father was a police officer for the city of Murfreesboro many years ago, and then left and then went to work for the Highway Patrol. And so he had a distinguished career in law enforcement as well. So I know Eric's father, who passed away a few years ago, is proud of his son, who's now the assistant police chief. So wanted to introduce him.
What are you wearing?
Congratulations, Eric.
Thank you.
And I know you want to attribute this back to 20 years ago, a police ride where you were my first interaction ever with the city of Murfreesboro. It was
exciting.
It was not in the back of the car. I mean, it was the leadership Rutherford that did the ride.
Correct. Yeah. You were there as a willing participant. We didn't carry you in that. So, and I don't know if that is that might not be a night that you can talk about.
That's
I guess
right.
since you're televising it, because it was pretty exciting. Yeah, I'm thankful for the opportunity, humbled, and just glad to be here.
Appreciate you, Eric.
All right.
you.
Good, man. Congratulations.
Eric and Michael, while y'all are still up there, I did want to say thank you for all the police department does for our city, but more than that, I got a Facebook note the other day, and I was telling Eric about it a while ago. The Facebook note said, Eddie, I was unloading my groceries from the cart into my car in a neighborhood that was probably less than safe, and it was after dark the other night. And a police officer came up, stopped, stayed with me while I unloaded my groceries into my car, and then took my cart back and put the cart up for me and made sure that I was safe while I was in the parking lot. And it's that step going beyond what is expected that I think makes you guys really special. So thank you very much, and y'all do a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have several participants of Leadership Rutherford here tonight. If y'all wouldn't mind standing up, that'd be great. All right. Thank y'all for going through a great program. Okay, we're going to turn the podium over to Dana Richardson, who's our transportation director and also celebrating his retirement today. So not only did we get a retirement speech, we got a comedic routine today. So Dana, come on up, and the podium is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. We did have a nice reception this evening, and I appreciated the opportunity to be involved in that. It was a lot of fun, and I will try to not repeat that routine tonight, but have some different things to say. But while I'm here, I would like to introduce my wife, Melanie, and her youngest daughter, Laura Lee. Our oldest daughter was there earlier this evening, but with a 1.5-year-old, I don't think anybody really wanted to hear the outcome of that tonight, so they went home, and hopefully they may be watching this on TV. But I will restate one thing that I said earlier today, and that is whatever I may have accomplished with the city is far outweighed by the sense of accomplishment I have with what I've experienced through my family, and for that, I thank y'all, love y'all. And I would also like to take the opportunity to thank my staff. Nellie Patton's here. It's our Assistant Director of Public Transportation. Thank you for all you've done, and the people in our public transportation section that work hard every day to provide services to the City of Murfreesboro. We also have Ron Balachandra, our City Traffic Engineer and Assistant Director over the traffic section, who does a fabulous job trying to keep people moving around town, and I've always appreciated what he has done for the city. Next, I think I would like to really thank our City Manager. I appreciate his leadership. I appreciate the opportunities that he's provided for me and my family, and I hope I've lived up to his expectations and provided the services that he would expect. Lastly, I'd like to really thank our City Council. And one thing that is very special about our City Council is the civility that you all exhibit. That is extremely important. And civility begets stability, and stability is the foundation on which success can be accomplished from the employees of this city and everyone else. And that is, to some degree, rare sometimes across the country. I have peers and colleagues across the entire state of Tennessee and beyond, and I recognize what we do have as being special and do very much appreciate that. So I thank our City Council for everything they do. And Shane, thank you for your leadership, and I'm proud to call you neighbor and friend and mayor. Thank you very much.
we had a good afternoon on really, Dana had his family here. His first grandchild was here today as well. And there's not much that can be said that you don't drive around Murfreesboro and you see Dana's handprints and his hard work all over this community. You look at Middle Tennessee Boulevard that's taken us almost 15 years to get started, actually starting this week. And that's a testament to his diligence. He works hard. He knows how to foster partnerships. And Dana, we appreciate you. This city could not be where it is from not only a transportation side, but from a convenience side and really a quality of life side with our residents without you and your leadership. And you will be sorely missed. And we think we'll look back many, many years from now and say Dana Richardson was a big part of that. So we greatly appreciate you.
Amen. Absolutely.
And I'm going to turn the podium back over to you, Dana, to introduce. I think we have some very special guests who are here tonight.
And this will be my last official act of 31 years. So, and I promise. But I do want to introduce some people, and if you will indulge me for a minute, Commissioner Shore is here to make a presentation to us tonight, and he's brought along some of his staff. Many of them I've worked with for a lot of years, and I'll start down here with David Lehue. He's the Director and Assistant Chief of Region 3 for TDOT. Thank you. Joe Darren, he is the Director of the Region 3 Project Development. Known him quite a number of years, and he's directly involved and has been in some of our projects. The new kid on the block, so to speak, I understand, is Katie Schulte in the Communications Department with TDOT. And then we have Matt Barnes. I worked with him on many occasions as he's the Legislative Services Director. He interacts between the department and our legislators. So I do appreciate that, and thank you all for coming. And before I introduce him, he is missing one person. Is Lindsay Botts. I didn't know she's his deputy chief and chief of staff, and I didn't know that they allowed him to go anywhere without her. Among many of her roles is one of her primary roles is to say, Commissioner, you can't say that. I've been very jealous of having that position. I've usually been relegated to hearing, Dana, you shouldn't have said that. So I appreciate the willingness to come and talk to us this evening about what I will kind of frame where he gets here as a transportation funding crisis that we're all facing. This is not just a national issue. It's not just a state issue. It's a local issue that ultimately affects and will affect every citizen of this city. And I would like to say that I applaud the governor and Commissioner Shore and Senator Tracy for trying to take the lead in bringing forth the discussions of the issues and some potential resolutions to that. So thank you very much. So, Commissioner. With that, I would introduce John Schroer as Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Transportation. And thank you very much for coming.
It's an honor to be here on Dana's last night, and so I would have come if I'd have been invited anyway without speaking. He does represent your city so well, and we have a great relationship. We've sat through many meetings together. We've worked out a whole lot of issues together, and so the partnership that the city of Murfreesboro has with the Department of Transportation is in great shape and is being left in good hands, and we will continue that relationship. So I appreciate it. And to you all, Mayor and Councilman, thank you for giving up a little bit of your time to let me. Am I not doing something?
Oh,
okay.
I was going to tell you that here he is.
Oh, here
Actually, here.
Okay.
He didn't tell me.
It's secret. But thank you. I know how precious your time is and how quickly these nights go. So I'm going to be. I'll be brief to let you get back home to your family. I'm here really to talk. Not too long ago, we were in Murfreesboro. The governor and I were in Murfreesboro to basically on our listening tours. We went through 15 different cities to kind of talk about what the needs were across the state for transportation. And so we went back and we worked together. And tonight I'm not going to talk about funding or any of those kind of issues. I'm just going to talk about the needs that we've developed that we think are important in Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. And it's going to be a quick presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have, and then I have a little package for each and every one of you before I leave. And I guess I click this button? I do. I'm too old to be technologically savvy. We have identified a total of 15 projects in this area that we think are important. And we have two different levels, and one is called our backlog projects, and those are projects that we have actually spent money on, whether we've done an environmental study, we may have done some right-of-way acquisition, we may have done design, but we haven't got to the construction side of that. So it's all during different phases. And then the next piece is what we call our new projects lists. And those are things that we have not spent a nickel on. You will recognize them when we talk to them. You realize that they are an important part of this community and moving this community forward. But dollars haven't been spent. And I need to kind of tell you in a big nature, in our backlog program across the state, we have $6.1 billion worth of projects in our backlog program. And in our new projects, it's $5.3 billion. So we have $11.4 billion worth of projects that we've identified that are needed across the state for us to do what we need to do. And we do now have a long-term funding bill out of the federal government. It does provide a little additional revenue for us. But I can tell you that if we do not move, I said I wasn't going to talk about funding, and here I go. If we don't do anything with funding at the state level, I will complete the backlog list by 2034. And if we don't do anything additionally to that, I will not complete the new project list until sometime about 2065. And so what I will say to you as I present these projects to you and we talk about them a little bit, if that's soon enough for you, it's soon enough for us, because we're here to serve you. This is not my transportation department. These are not my roads. These are your roads that we're talking about. These are the roads that you represent. These are the roads that your citizens that you represent need. And we want to build them as fast as we can, and we're going to need your help to make sure that that happens. So we're going to start right off the bat, and what I have here real quickly is just a picture of the projects that we have identified, and we can go through them pretty quickly. You all know them, and you can see how they're all spread out. The red dots are the backlog projects, the green dots are the new projects, and the purple dots are new bridges. And we've got a lot of bridges in our program, but we're a very wet state, and bridges are critical. A lot of our bridges are waitlisted at this point in time. They don't hold the amount of weight that we originally wanted them to have. And so we're getting to the point that some of our bridges are waitlisted that school buses can't go over, heavy equipment can't go over, even emergency vehicles can't go over. We oversee 19,500 bridges in the state of Tennessee, and these bridges not only include those bridges, but additional bridges that you all are responsible for. So just real quickly, the first project that we have identified is State Route 99, widening from US 41 to Rutherford Boulevard, cost of about $6 million. Again, this is in the backlog list. These are things that, again, we've identified. And if I'm not mistaken, to make sure I've got my numbers all right, where we are at this point in time is, I think that we have done all of our, okay, we've done we've done all our survey and I think our design work and right away. So it's one of the projects that is pretty close to being ready to get started. The next project we've identified is State Route 96, and this is a very, very important road. We've got it in several different phases, but this is a total project cost of $48.3 million. And as you know, it goes from Veterans Parkway all the way over to the county line. And just so you know, we've got the corresponding part from the county line over to Franklin as part of our widening program. So it's, we really thought that 840 would kind of just alleviate all the traffic problems on Highway 96, and we affectionately refer to that as Murfreesboro Road, and you affectionately refer to it as Franklin Road. But the traffic and the development on that road has continued, will continue to grow, and it's a vitally important corridor for both our two cities. And so that's part of our projects that's on the backlog list. The next project that we've identified is back again to State Route 99. And this project is a widening project, and I think we've got that in several different phases as well, in 3 different phases, totaling, it's an expensive project, $35.8 million that we have identified, and we were just talking about bringing sewer and new schools and other things that are out there. That's an area that's growing. I used to actually be partner in a sod farm that's on the other end of State Route 99 in Eagleville, and so I've driven that road quite a bit. You've benefited from the new interchange that went there, and that was needed to be done, and now that growth has continued as well. State Route 262, Jefferson Pike, a widening project from Jefferson Pike to Nissan, or from Nissan Drive to State Route 840. Again, that area of this county is a critical need of new transportation projects. $22.9 million, a 3.9 mile length of property. And State Route 268, Thompson Pike, widening from State Route 1 to State Route 10, 4.3 miles, $25.6 million. Now, the interesting thing about all of that is something you just need to know. That's a cost just in Rutherford County of $622 million. Now, it doesn't include one thing on our new projects that I need to really talk about, and those are interchange improvements at exit 74, 78, and 80, and also a ramp improvement at exit 66, 70, 81, 84, and 89. And we have another category that's called congestion reduction. Now, that's an interesting comment. You all will like this, but we know how bad 24 is from Murfreesboro to Nashville. It's the worst section of highway that we have for traffic congestion. We've taken, as part of this program, $400 million that we've identified to go strictly towards congestion mitigation. Now, I'm not sure what that looks like, and I think it's important for you all to know. We're looking at bus on shoulders right now. We think that will help. We're looking at other things. We want to use some of those dollars to help transit if it's there. We will have full discretion with these dollars to put on viable projects that we think that will help congestion. We're going to have to partner with the communities in order to get that done. We don't run transit systems, and we know that. So we want to make sure that we are flexible and can do some things to help the traffic issues that come from all of the commutes from Murfreesboro to Nashville. And I will say, and I told a couple of you all the story, not too long ago, Chrissy Haslam, the First Lady, was here, was visiting your city and was visiting a couple daycare centers. And one of the centers they were talking to, they started talking about how bad the traffic was and from Nashville to Murfreesboro and vice versa, and that this particular daycare center, I do not remember the name of it, but this particular daycare center was having a lot of issues with parents that were always late because they couldn't pick their kids up in time. And so what they decided to do was create another program, and they're actually providing dinner, supper for the children that are there, and the parents can participate as well. So when they get there, they can have dinner and then go home and do their family things. And so, this is starting to even affect the family unit to some degree, and I think most of you all know that. We know that. We understand that. And so I'll go back to what I said. With the Backlog program, we can complete those projects in 2034. And as we go forward, it's even further behind. And so we don't think that's soon enough. I don't think that you think that's soon enough. But we're just here to present these projects. These are what we've identified as important things in your community. We did that from listening. And we just appreciate the time and the effort to let me come and talk to you about it. And I'll be glad to, Mayor, I'll be glad to answer any questions or receive any comments that you might have.
Can we do that?
And in a perfect world, what can we do to help?
Well, I think it will be important for communities to voice support for these project programs, and you can do that by resolution or by simply calling your legislators and the governor. It's important to then talk about the timing of this. And there is currently not a bill that's on the floor. My job is to actually talk and make sure that people understand about the building program and that we have consensus that it's an important part. There will be at some point in time a funding bill, but I think what you're interested in is letting your legislators know that you know funding or transportation is important to your community, and the sooner that can happen and as soon as we can have long-term sustainable funding to attack our backlog on our new project list, the better off your community will be and our state will be.
Commissioner Schroeder, there's not often that somebody comes to visit us that I say, I hope you got stuck in traffic on the way coming.
And you did, didn't you? Yeah, thank you for that.
Went home as to our need. And certainly, I will say it again, we can't, as a council and as citizens of Murfreesboro, emphasize enough to our state legislature and our senators to understand that there is a need for road construction in Murfreesboro, and of course we know that it has growing pains that comes along with us as we're enjoying with Broad Memorial, but there is also that light at the end of the tunnel that we recognize that we have conditions that need to be addressed, and the sooner the better. So whatever the funding process is, which I think most of us understand that a gas tax is a potential in the future, and I just hope that the legislature and those people representing us in Nashville understand that it's more important to do what's best for your community than it is to do what's best for getting reelected. And so there's some tough decisions ahead for them, and certainly I hope that you get their support.
Well, we're going to try hard.
Commissioner, we thank you.
Thank you all very much for your time. I appreciate it. We welcome any comments or questions you might have. If I could, I've got this that maybe someone can pass out at some point in time. Right now, that's a list of those projects, and you can contact our Region 3 if you've got any questions. And I will just conclude by again saying we really appreciate the relationships that we have with Murfreesboro, and it's important, and you are a critical piece to Middle Tennessee. Everybody knows that, all the way up from the governor on down. And I have to say Franklin kind of is too. I just happened to be the mayor of Franklin at one point in time. But and it's great to stand back in city council meetings again. I know Mayor Bragg, when you come back, it brings back good and bad memories at the same time. But all good now because he's been gone. But I will say thank you for your service. I know how important it is what you do, and your community, I know most of the time appreciates the service that you have. Thank you all very much. Yes, sir.
Can we get a copy of the PowerPoint?
Sure, absolutely. You've got one. It's on this drive, and you can do with it what you want.
Commissioner, we will say we thank you for your hard work for TDOT being a partner with Murfreesboro. With Dana, you always heard the cooperation of how good TDOT is to work with, and from the municipality side, we will help however we can on pushing through the thought that we need help on our road construction. We can't afford with the growth that we have to get behind.
So I'll leave you with one thought, that orange barrels mean prosperity.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Richardson, before we get too far along, I realize that I did not allow you the opportunity to introduce some of your guests that are here tonight. And I apologize for not doing that. Would you like to? Your family has shared you with us for a long time, so I think it'd be nice to you to introduce them. Did I miss that? I apologize. No. I'm sorry. I apologize. All right. We'll move into the consent agenda. You have 4 different items on your agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright, you call the roll.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklett.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. You have 2 meetings of minutes, January 7th, 2016 special meeting, which was a city manager evaluation, the January 7th, 2016 special meeting, the public comment. Any additions or deletions?
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklett.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. We'll move into second readings. Consider for passage on second reading. We'll move into third readings. Consider for passage on third and final reading ordinance 15 OZ 63 to zone approximately 12.6 acres located along Osborne Lane as residential single family 12 RS 12 district.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklett.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Item 4, we'll hear from the city recorder, finance director, ordinance 150667, revised Exhibit A.
Mayor, tonight we have an amendment to an ordinance that you've already passed on 2 readings. The original amendment for our budget was to include a building codes inspector position. Additionally, tonight we have found that we need to amend the airport fund budget for revenue and expense, so it's a 0 fund balance effect for additional work that was done at the airport that will be covered by federal and state grant revenues. And because of last week's meeting where we voted to consider the purchase of the bank building over on College Street, we have an amendment to make that possible to write a check should that transaction go through. This particular amendment is to increase expenses, increase some revenue from rent of the building for a net decrease to our fund balance in cash of $1.564 million. And that was what was also discussed at the meeting last week, except for the rent revenue. I'm not sure we quantified that. So both of these are things that have come before you in various contracts, requests for the work to be done. And so what I'm requesting is, with your approval, that you amend the exhibit first and then pass on third reading as amended.
Okay. We have a motion for the amendment of the exhibit.
Move for approval of the exhibit
As amended?
As amended.
as amended.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklett.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. And we'll now consider for passage on third and final reading as amended ordinance 15067, amending the 2015-2016 budget, and this is the third amendment.
Move for approval of the ordinance with the amendment.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklett.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Moving to second readings, consider for passage on second reading ordinance 15 OZ 65 to zone an area located along Blackman Road to Highway Commercial CH District and Commercial Fringe CF District, Benjamin Sykes and Thomas Meadow applicants.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second.
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklett.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Consider for passage on second reading ordinance 15OZ68 to amend the conditions applicable to approximately 91.5 acres in the planned residential development PRD district located along Veterans Parkway, Sheffield Park PRD, Beezer Homes, applicant 2015-426.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance? Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Consider for passage on second reading ordinance 15OZ69 to rezone approximately 3.9 acres along Otter Trail from residential zero lot line RZ district to residential multifamily 16 RM16 district, approximately 2.1 acres, and from residential multifamily 16 district to residential zero lot line RZ district, approximately 1.8 acres. Swanson Development is the applicant.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Consider for passage on second reading ordinance 15OZ70 to amend the conditions applicable to approximately 22.5 acres in the planned residential development PRD district located east of Cason Lane, the Three Rivers PRD, as indicated on the attached map. Trails LLC is the applicant.
So moved.
Second.
Have Vice Mayor Young and Councilman Shacklet call the roll.
Mr. LaLance?
No.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
No.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. Move into new business, and we'll have a letter from the Parks and Recreation Director regarding the Miracle Field at McKnight Park. Mr. Goodwin.
Mayor McFarland, members of the City Council, good afternoon, or good evening. I have one item for your consideration. That's a reimbursement resolution, 16R02, for the design and construction of the Miracle Field at McKnight Park. If you recall, on July the 30th, Project 14, the Parks and Recreation Department presented that to the City Council for their endorsement and approval. Since that time, the city has approved the architectural engineering services for design and construction of the Miracle Field, and Project 14 is engaged in fundraising. A reimbursement resolution is necessary to keep the project on track and moving forward. And just to let you know, the groundbreaking is set for February the 4th, and we'll be getting information. Tentative right now is 10 o'clock, but there'll be other activities to follow. In the 2015 CIP, there was $2,750,000 allocated for the project. The project was endorsed by the Parks and Recreation Department. Therefore, it's a recommendation that the City Council approve the reimbursement resolution, R16R02, and that the mayor be authorized to sign the necessary documents pending legal review. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
The Miracle Field is a fantastic project. As we all know, there is a need there, and certainly we're privileged to have David Price participating with his community that he grew up in and where he started his ball career, and I think this is just a fantastic opportunity. So I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye.
Mayor, if I could, there is a new YouTube video, and I know it's been sent to Mr. Lyons. I'm sure he'll push that out to the City Council, but that was a part of the donation by Lowson Associates as a part of the fundraising effort. So we'd love for you to see that. We didn't have it tonight to show to the City Council, but it's done very well. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now consider recommendations of the principal planner.
Thank you. I think I'm used to a longer introduction. First item before you tonight is for you to consider scheduling public hearings for 3 items, the first of which the Planning Commission conducted public hearing on December 2nd of 2015 and then made its recommendation later that month on December 16th, and that is for a rezoning application for approximately 2.2 acres located along Gresham Lane to be rezoned from RS15 to RM16, Alcorn property to the applicant. At the January 6, 2016 meeting, the meeting this year, the Planning Commission conducted 2 public hearings on an item to rezone approximately 1.68 acres located along Dill Lane to be rezoned from RS15 to RM12, and that's Randy Friedsman as the applicant, and also a rezoning application for approximately 8.56 acres located along Franklin Road to be rezoned from RS15 to CF. Anthony Chagrai is the applicant.
Mayor, we would suggest either February 11 or March 3rd. That's in anticipation that we will not meet on February 18th, I believe it is, because it's a short week. And on the week of the 25th, there'll be several members of the planning staff, and perhaps myself will be at a conference. So we would suggest the 11th, if that, we expect a meeting that night. I think that'll be plenty of notice. And if not that, we would go over to March 3rd.
Do we have any other public hearings on either of those days yet?
No.
The 11th.
Soon
Get it moving.
Yeah. Quicker the better.
11th, yeah. Good.
Move we schedule a public hearing for February the 11th.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye.
Thank you, sir. Our next 2 items are both right-of-way abandonment requests. The first is for you to consider abandoning a portion of West Burton Street right-of-way. During the Planning Commission's regular meeting on January 6th of this year, 2016, they held a public hearing and then considered the matter of abandoning a portion of West Burton Street right-of-way. Subject property is located along the south side of West Burton, between North Church Street and North Maple Street. This right-of-way was dedicated to the city, and staff isn't sure when it was dedicated to the city, but we're certain it was quite some time ago. If you look at the right-of-way, the casual observer would have no idea that it actually is public right-of-way, as it looks like it's a part of the existing parcels of land. The proposed Rutherford County Judicial Center is to be located directly on this right-of-way. The staff has studied it and presented that study to the Planning Commission, and we have determined that there's no need to maintain that right-of-way, and it's their recommendation that you consider abandoning it and giving it to Rutherford County to combined with the rest of their properties. The Planning Commission, of course, did hold a public hearing. My notes state that you should hold a public hearing, but City Council actually doesn't need to hold a public hearing on this matter. The Planning Commission has and did, but you don't need to. Additional materials were provided to you. If you have questions, I'd be glad to answer them. There are some conditions that the Planning Commission based approval on, and we'd suggest that you do the same. The first is that the applicant is responsible for providing the necessary documents to the legal department for the drafting of the quitclaim deed, and the abandoned right-of-way shall be shown on a subdivision plat as being incorporated into the Judicial Center lot of record, and that basically cleans up all the legal ends of this area. We also have a second right-of-way abandonment request, and I don't know if it would be more appropriate to take action on the first one and then move to the second, or?
I would recommend action one at a time.
Need a motion?
Yes.
So moved on, that's
West Burton
A.
Street.
Yeah, on West Burton Street, yeah.
To include all staff comments. You want to make sure that's in there.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye.
The next item is for you to consider abandoning a portion of Williams Drive right-of-way. During the Planning Commission's regular meeting on January 6th of this year, 2016, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and considered the matter for abandoning a portion of the Williams Drive right-of-way. You have exhibits in your packet before you, and it's basically a turnout. It was anticipated when master planning exercises were done for this property that there would be a road that would connect Williams Drive to the south. That road will not be constructed. We have seen development plans, and we know that there will not be a road leading to the south. So at the behest of the, I guess he's still the Transportation Director, Mr. Richardson, the applicants have made an application to abandon a portion of right-of-way, and you can see it's very small. It's just 0.03 acres. Williams Drive is actually located near the Gateway Island Pond. If you're not familiar with it, that would be where it's located. And it's adjacent to land being proposed to be developed with a commercial medical office. The Planning Commission approved plans for that site as well as the DRC. Williams Drive is approximately 52-foot wide of right-of-way and has 2 hammerheads at each end, and this basically is just making the right-of-way line straight. There's no facilities constructed there. If you do abandon this property, half will go to each property owner on each half. So the request was made for the owners by the property owners of Lot 5A, and they'll get half of that right-of-way, and the other half will go to the adjacent lot. The Planning Commission did study the matter, and there's a report that was prepared, and it was indicated that there were some easements in that, but they could very easily keep easements and abandon that right-of-way. The Planning Commission placed conditions on their approval, and I would suggest that you do the same if you decide to approve this, and those conditions are that they maintain easements for the existing utilities, which are currently located within the right-of-way that was and that the applicants provide a legal description for the area, field locate all the utilities to properly locate those easements, and provide a re-subdivision plat. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Move for approval subject to conditions and any staff comments.
Second.
Motion is second.
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye.
Thank you.
We now consider recommendations of the Airport Commission.
Mayor and the City Council, tonight I'd like to talk with you about the Powder Puff Derby. It was it was an air race that started in 1929 in Santa Monica, California, and ended in Ohio, and it included 20 women flyers for the first time racing across the country. And in 2016, we're going to have a stop along the way in what is now called the Air Race Classic. And this one is a special one in that it's the title of it is called the Collegiate Cross-Country. So this race will include 100 pilots, women pilots, and around 50 to 55 aircraft. They'll be racing from Prescott, Arizona, from the campus of Embry-Riddle University, hitting about 9 other stops along the way and making one stop in Murfreesboro, and celebrating Middle Tennessee State University and their aerospace program. Their final terminus is at Daytona Beach at the Embry-Riddle campus there in Daytona Beach. The Department of Transportation Aeronautics Division is assisting us with our part of hosting this event with a grant for $7,500 to help in promotional items to promote Murfreesboro and Tennessee to the ladies that will be flying through our fair city. The Airport Commission has requested your approval of signing that grant.
What else can we do to help? Chad, anything?
We're going to be working a lot with the university and their various different student organizations that are in the aerospace department. We're going to be using some of our EAA people to help us handle the pilots as they come in. We're not sure how many will be just coming in for fuel and making their time stop here in Murfreesboro, or stopping here overnight and getting to hotels. So there's quite a bit of coordination and transportation that we will have to get to the pilots to hotels and things like that. So a lot of that will be having some water, some food on hand, and getting them to some rest, and then getting up early in the morning to get them on their way.
Well, if you find any way else we can help, let us know. And
I sure will.
With that being said, I'll make a motion to approve the grant.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance?
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet?
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman?
Aye.
Mr. Washington?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young?
Aye.
Mayor McFarland?
Aye. You have 2 different groups for appointment to the Murfreesboro Art Committee and an appointment to the Rutherford County Wayfinding Program Board.
Is this the actual appointment? Move we accept the mayor's recommendation.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington. Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Beer permits?
We have one convenience store tonight that is a new location, and they have met our background requirements. They are pending building codes inspections, so we request permission to issue once you approve, and they meet their required inspections.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye. Any statements to be paid?
None tonight.
Okay. Looks like we have one item of other business.
I have one item from the Community Development Department in front of you. It is asking for you to consider approval of a housing rehab project. We opened bids January 11th and are recommending accepting the low bid from J.B. Cripps & Son. So if council would approve the contract and authorize the mayor to sign.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion is second. Ms. Wright?
Mr. LaLance.
Aye.
Mr. Shacklet.
Aye.
Mr. Smotherman.
Aye.
Mr. Washington.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Young.
Aye.
Mayor McFarland.
Aye.
Yes, I just, before we close, I just wanted to remind everybody of what Pastor McCarroll had told us about Monday, January the 18th, the Martin Luther King Jr. Day March. You meet at 11:30 at Central Magnet School. The march will begin at noon, and they march from Central Magnet to Patterson Park. And I just wanted to let everybody know that everybody's welcome, and it makes a great statement of unity for our community for people to show up there. So come and walk that short distance. You did this last year, and it was a great time of fellowship with folks. Some people I knew, some people I didn't know, but it was a great time of fellowship. So if you've got the opportunity, come on out to Central Magnet, 11:30 on Monday.
Mayor, I would also like for to have staff look at the potential of the city developing an ordinance that would pertain to liquor stores. I quite honestly am surprised that we don't have one that regulates liquor stores by population and by requiring residents for the ownership of a liquor store. Every city around us, Smyrna, Lebanon, Brentwood, Franklin, all have an ordinance, and I've discussed this with legal and in conversations with them. I think it's something that would be fairly simple to get together and do a fair assessment on what the need is, and it's certainly not to corner the market or do anything that would be trying to disrupt the free market, but it is with the intentions of trying to make sure that Murfreesboro doesn't become a liquor store destination as well. So with that in mind, I'd appreciate if you would put something together for us that we could look at and maybe consider.
Yes, sir.
Any other business? You have a birthday?
My daughter and my mom today. Sorry I had to slip out. For all you that were here, I had to make sure I had dinner with them.
Happy birthday to the LaLance family.
Thank you.
All right. We'll stand adjourned.